everybody. Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. Be sure to press that subscribe and like button on your way in down below if you have not subscribed yet. Also, like the live stream so more people join. And I'm getting a couple things ready, and I'll be ready here in just a moment. So hang tight, everybody. Thank you. All right. Thank you guys for letting me know. I was just rambling on for about 5 minutes there for no sound. Yeah, okay, so let me start over again. Thankfully somebody reminded me in the chat. So thank you so much for letting me know. It's all fixed. All right, thank you guys so much. All right, everybody can hear me good now? Give me a thumbs up in the chat if you guys all can hear me. I apologize for everything I just said. I'll have to go over again just to make sure you guys know what I'm talking about here. All right. I was muted. I apologize. A lot of things going on here this afternoon. All right, there we go. Thank you guys for letting me know. All right, so what I was talking about is Gary had a question up there. I pinned it at the top of the chat. He asked, just wondering about the tropics. Gulf waters are very hot this early in the year. Chances of anything developing there as I live on the coast. Well, what I was talking about here as I was moving my mouse around was there's a lot of attempts of these tropical waves moving off of the African coast across the North Atlantic, but they don't really survive really much to the Lesser Antilles or into the Eastern Caribbean. And the reason being is there's a lot of Saharan dust moving off of Africa, and this is just kind of destroying the chances of any of these systems really strengthening or really holding their own. They just continue to like fall apart as they move farther away from the African coast there. That really is the pattern I see moving forward over the next probably 7 to 14 days, the next 1 to 2 weeks across this region. Just so much dry air, lots of wind shear also in this environment. So I don't really see any potential favorable environment for tropical systems or anything like that. Certainly no hurricanes in the Atlantic anytime soon. So yeah, any threat to the southeast United States, the southern areas there along the Gulf Coast, the East Coast, is really just going to be these frontal systems that move across the Great Plains, down the northwest flow. We've been seeing a lot of severe weather in the Great Plains, a lot of flash flooding events as well. And there's no reason to believe that won't continue. I think that will likely continue for the better half of the next couple of weeks. And any frontal boundary that moves down into the southeast and toward the southeast coast certainly could present the chance for some, severe weather at times, some heavier rain, some flash flooding. That would be your only threat, Gary, for that area if you were on the live stream right now across the coast there. So that's the concern. The Eastern Pacific, though, is busy. We have 2 more named systems probably going to be named. Again, I haven't looked at the National Hurricane Center's tropical outlook yet. I've been busy for next week's weather system, trying to get that together for you guys. I will be presenting that here in just a couple of minutes. But for the Eastern Pacific side, it's Calvin is the next name on the list, and if that's already named, then Dora would be the next name. And actually, Dora looks like it's going to be the stronger of the systems in the Eastern Pacific, as it will be kind of more into the warmer waters longer, so the residence time in the waters there of the warmer Eastern Pacific is it's going to have a longer staying power, so it probably will get a little bit stronger there in the Eastern Pacific, but other than that, I'm not really seeing anything too crazy. And even these systems in the Eastern Pacific are actually moving further west over the open water, so away from the mainland North America. That's what I see. But regarding the North Atlantic, the Caribbean, the Gulf, like I said, quiet over the next couple of weeks there. I don't see anything pressing to talk about with tropical waves or anything like that. I think the biggest problem here is just the waves that continue to die out because of the dry air there in the North Atlantic. So that's basically what I see there. However, I will note that the last week in July and early August will be a period to watch if you live in the Caribbean, whether it's Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, Cuba, the Turks and Caicos, maybe Florida, Bahamas, just something to keep an eye on as we get later on into July there, the last week and into early August. I know I'm spitballing here, but the pattern in some of the ensembles have been trending a little bit more bullish and active towards that time frame. So we'll just continue to watch that. We'll go here real quick to some of these tools that I use to look at the water temperatures here, and just look at the water temperatures. It is a powder keg in the North Atlantic right now. All these are just sea surface temperature anomalies, so it's not really the actual temperature. It's just the anomaly from normal. That's what this means. So you see a lot of orange. So the anomaly from normal means it's above average. That's where you see the orange. The blue is below normal anomalies across these areas, and you really don't see a lot of blue, and to be fair, you don't really see a lot of white, so not near normal. A lot of this is above normal. So any system that survives off the African coast there in the Saharan desert and moves west across the the tropical Atlantic, the MDR region, the main development region here, will have, some problems. But I think late in July, early August, it may start to get a little bit more favorable, less shear, very warm waters, less dry air potentially. We'll see how long that dry air sticks around. But yes, we could be watching that as we get toward that time frame. So watch out, late July, early August. That will be a time frame I'm keeping an eye on for portions of the North Atlantic in particular. Not any particular area, just everywhere in the North Atlantic. Watch out there late July and into early August. All right, let's get into what we're talking about today. And thank you guys. I'm Weather on the Go. I've been on YouTube for about over a year now. I just joined on March 1st, 2022. We've grown substantially to over 32,000 subscribers. So thank you to all the supporters out there. I do appreciate it. All the people who watch my videos each and every morning, I do really appreciate that as well. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can. I'll post the link up there on the screen in a minute. But please, please, please like the live stream down below, the thumbs up. It does help out more than you guys realize. The more likes we get, and how YouTube works is you get more likes, you get more people to watch your live streams and videos. So please, please, please like everything down below, including this live stream, and subscribe if you're new. This is a great weather channel. I promise you that here on YouTube. We really do break down the weather patterns so you guys understand it and make it more educational along the way as well. So subscribe to the YouTube channel. I cover North America, including Southern Canada, the United States, and like I just mentioned, the tropics. We will be covering that on this channel as well. So if you're not subscribed, just definitely do so down below. I really appreciate it. All right. And here's the Twitter handle. If you guys want to follow me on Twitter, I have over 200 followers on Twitter, trying to get closer to 1,000 followers here very soon. If you want to follow me on Twitter for additional weather forecast updates, in addition to my videos, my live streams, and stuff like that, there's the Twitter handle, HWeather420, capital H, Weather420. And I do post on that platform fairly frequently, just so you guys know. So we update you guys on my videos when I post them on there, and other weather things, including the long range forecasts and stuff like that. And what I see is interesting as well on that platform. So I appreciate that. So like the live stream, subscribe, and follow me on Twitter, and you guys are set to go. So looking at today's live stream overview, these are the two main key messages I will be bringing about in today's live stream. Is the short range forecast this weekend, the temperature and precipitation trends. I know a lot of people are getting out and about. It's the second week in July now, and people are wanting to get outside into the middle of summer. It's getting toward the dog days of summer, so yes, it's getting hotter out there. We'll go over the temperature trends and who could see the big storms through this weekend across the United States. And then our key point to this whole live stream is number 2 there, a big problem brewing next week, and that is not an understatement. We actually have some issues next week in the weather pattern. Mother Nature is not being nice to us, and next week we are back into the ring of fire weather pattern. I'll tell you what that means and what you can expect later on as we go into next week later on in the live stream. So first up is the overall weather pattern this weekend. This is what you can see today into your Sunday tomorrow. We mainly have an upper level low centered up here across central Canada. That's really allowing us to get into that northwest flow across the United States. We have a ridge of high pressure just to the west, and the displacement between that ridge of high pressure in western Canada there, and then that stronger upper level low there across central Canada may be causing some windy conditions there into western parts of Canada, particularly into Alberta and western Saskatchewan, and that could be troublesome for some fires up there. I know there's a lot of wildfires up in that region. So hopefully the winds aren't too strong and don't disrupt a lot of those fires and aggravate them to make them even bigger. So hopefully that stays at bay. But right now, that's the pressure gradient there of what we're seeing, and that's with the northwest flow. All this air across the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and really the better half of the northern states of the United States is coming from Canada out of the northwest. So that is what we're seeing across portions of the United States. That's the general weather pattern here. So now let's break it down a little further. Today's high temperatures, you guys are probably getting close to your highs across the United States, especially on the East Coast here rather soon within the next couple of hours. From New York City up through Boston, you can expect some mid 80s today. Nice northwest flow though in the Midwest. Look at Chicago. We're only into the low 70s this afternoon. On up the western shoreline of Lake Michigan into Milwaukee and Green Bay, we're into the 70s this afternoon as well. Further south, though, St. Louis, can't argue about that. 82 degrees. Get outside and enjoy it. Lots of sunshine out there today. And then Des Moines, Iowa, 78, 79 up there in the Twin Cities. And look at that, guys. The 70-degree line today actually drops further to the south. So we get into Wichita, Topeka, Kansas City, upper 70s down there, 85. Can't argue with that even, into Oklahoma City. But as you get a little bit further south from Oklahoma City, so we're talking Lawton, Fort Sill, Oklahoma, down there toward the Wichita Falls region into Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth. Yeah, then we're going to start getting into the summertime heat down here. Upper 90s, low hundreds, that's expected as we go into this afternoon. Really hot over here where the ridge of high pressure is centered across northwest Mexico and into the desert southwest of the United States. Phoenix closing in on 110 this afternoon. Death Valley here into Southern California, western parts of Arizona getting up to about 115 Fahrenheit this afternoon. So very hot out there. But look at these overnight lows. Keep the windows open, folks. This is amazing weather for the second weekend of July if I've ever seen it. Look at this, guys. 50s all the way widespread across the northern and central states from Kansas, Missouri northward through the Illinois Valley, parts of Wisconsin, getting into Iowa, Minnesota, the Dakotas, Montana. We're seeing some 50s up here. And even could get borderline chilly. You might even have to close your windows or kind of shut them down a little bit up here across northern Wisconsin, the Arrowhead of Minnesota into northeast Minnesota, and the UP of Michigan. We could be seeing lows in the upper 40s, 47, 48 degrees up in those areas. So something like the Duluth region, we could be closing in on about 50 degrees for an overnight low tonight into your Sunday morning. So a little chilly, maybe a light jacket up across those areas. But across the south, it's warm. Nothing we can't handle. Middle 70s for lows overnight, and then we pop right back up into the heat tomorrow. But we start to warm up there as well into the northern states. We introduce the 80s back across the upper Midwest and the Ohio Valley, so we're seeing that as we go into tomorrow. And again, maybe some 90s sprinkled in there from the Billings, Montana area, eastward there toward Fargo, Bismarck, and maybe even the Rapid City area into South Dakota on Sunday. But overall, get outside and enjoy it. If you have a pool outside, go swim. Lots of great sunny weather, no thunderstorms to be had. Unless you live in the Great Plains, just have a radar handy. You may have to dodge some thunderstorms, but other than that, not too big of a deal as we go through this weekend. The heat will be on, though, across the Rio Grande Valley. So if you live down here, my friends in Brownsville, Texas, to Corpus Christi, down to Austin, it's going to be hot into the triple digits as we go into your Sunday. So if you're headed off to church services down there, it's going to be a little sweltering. It's going to be hot. So make sure to pack in the shorts and t-shirts if you have more of the casual church days down there. I'm not sure if that's even a thing, but there you go. There's your weather forecast for the next couple of days, the next 48 hours or so for your Saturday afternoon, Saturday night, and into your Sunday for temperatures. So that's what you can expect. And it also will be hot. Don't want to forget our friends in the Pacific Northwest, up here into Washington State, Oregon, and also into Idaho. Temperatures will be in the 90s and hundreds up here as well. So just take it easy. Hydrate, guys. And if you work outside, just take breaks in the shade or try to get indoors to air conditioning as many times as you can. I know it's hot out there, and hopefully the dog days of summer will be over for some areas that have just been relentless with the heat recently. All right, so hopefully we can get over that. But now we talk about the storm trends. There is severe weather. Like I said, a radar app would be handy. We have a slight risk for severe storms today across the Front Range, across southeastern Wyoming, down into eastern Colorado. This does include the Pueblo area back into the Denver region, especially in the lower elevations. And then we start to see that transition more to the southeast. Again, northwest flow. So that moves from northwest to southeast. So places like the northeast corner of New Mexico, southwest Kansas, getting down into the Amarillo region, Lawton, Fort Sill, Oklahoma City, getting down in towards the DFW Metroplex, probably to the north. So DFW on northward toward the Red River there, having to worry about some at least marginally severe storms going through your afternoon and evening. That will transition with a slight risk further east, Little Rock to Memphis, and even towards the Nashville region, Jackson, Mississippi, just some areas at risk for severe weather as we go through today. That shifts further to the east on Sunday. A lot of us see that dark green. That's just a level 1 out of 5. Not that big of a deal. Just watch out for some quarter-size hail, 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. But if you're in the yellow shaded color, a slightly better chance or better odds for severe weather on Sunday. That'll be across the Delmarva region into Virginia, Delaware, and Maryland, all the way down into the eastern Carolinas, Raleigh, down to Myrtle Beach, Charleston, and Savannah, Georgia, and then back westward toward Atlanta. Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, don't want to forget about our friends down there. We're going to be seeing some bigger storms potentially on Sunday, and then that will transition further west toward Texarkana and the DFW Metroplex yet again for your Sunday. Looking at the overall rainfall accumulation, this is your total rainfall expected from today through your Monday morning on July 10th. Again, northwest flow will be dominant across the southern United States, so do expect some decent rains across portions of Oklahoma, especially around the Oklahoma City metro region. Getting south and east from there, Texarkana, one of the bullseye areas for the heaviest rainfall, could be seeing in excess of 2-3 inches of rain over the next 48 hours down there. And much of southern Arkansas, northern Louisiana, talking about Shreveport over there toward Jackson, Mississippi, we could be seeing a couple inches of rain, and a lot of this could be coming down with 1 or 2 rounds of storms. So a lot of this could be a very, very short amount of time across the southern United States. That's what we're seeing here going in toward your Monday morning. And then that will transition and kind of weaken a little bit across portions of the southeast. We could be seeing some pop-up afternoon storms. It's Florida, guys, so we're going to be seeing those popcorn type thunderstorms in the afternoon there into Florida. And then that could transition northward into Georgia and South Carolina. We pick up with the rainfall, though, across the northeast here. The Delmarva region, again, up there in toward the I-95 corridor. We may start to taper it off to the east toward Boston, but some decent rains for Long Island, New York, and especially parts of New Jersey there, eastern New York State, eastern PA into Pennsylvania. We could be seeing some decent rains. Baltimore down to Philadelphia and even Washington, D.C. could be seeing some decent rains as we go through the next 48 hours, a couple inches there as well. But the areas I don't like to see dry is the Midwest. We have a lot of drought ongoing. I didn't put the drought monitor on today's slideshow. I should have. But we do have severe and even extreme drought starting to expand across the northern states here in the Midwest, and really starting to see that in Wisconsin. The last update from the Drought Mitigation Center actually shows Madison, Wisconsin, and south central Wisconsin there actually into a level, I believe, level 4 drought, either level 3 or 4. That would be an extreme drought. So you only have one more drought category, and that would be the worst drought. So that is meaning we need a lot of rain up here into the Midwestern regions. That is for sure. Thank you, Saunders, for the donation, the $2 donation. I appreciate it. Everybody, thank Saunders in the live stream chat. I really do appreciate it, guys. It helps out more than you know. Even any little donation, $1, $2, $3, anything really helps. I appreciate it. But yes, the Midwest needs rain. You could also argue parts of the northern Great Plains need rain. The Dakotas, Nebraska really needs the rain, in eastern Nebraska. Parts of northeast Kansas still need some rain. A lot of the rain has been sneaking underneath them and towards like Oklahoma and Texas. So hopefully we can get some more rain down there across those areas. All right, let's bring the key point to today and why we're really here, okay? So we got a ring of fire weather pattern starting to shape up as we go into next week, and this is a complex pattern. We're in the summer, and a lot of these weather patterns are very, very challenging and difficult to predict. So I will go along and tell you what I think will happen and why it's so difficult and challenging here for the predictions of these type of weather patterns. So the overall weather pattern early next week, we have still that upper level low, but that will transition further south. We have a little bit of some blocking up here into eastern Canada, so that will force that upper level low to kind of meander further to the south early next week. We're talking Monday, Tuesday time frame. And that still will continue with our northwest flow out of Canada there in the eastern two-thirds of the country. But you do notice, if you can very faintly see, we have a center of the ridge of high pressure down here into West Texas, southern New Mexico, southeast Arizona, and out of northern Mexico as well as we go into that Monday time frame. By the middle of next week, that tries to shift as far north as it can without disrupting some of this northwest flow. So you start to see Utah, Nevada, California, into portions of Colorado, maybe even the northern fringes of that ridge trying to make it as far north as central Kansas as we go in toward that Wednesday time frame. And you start to see that upper level low meander back further to the north, but also weaken at the same time. That could open the door for what we call short waves moving over top of that ridge. And we have like a squeeze play going on here. We have the heat to the south, we have the cooler air to the north, and a battle zone going on in between here. And that could be troublesome into the middle of next week, particularly centered around Wednesday. And then by late next week, the upper level low again does its thing, gets stronger, moves a little further to the south. We have a more dominant northwest flow again. We push that ridge a little further south, and the storm zone moves a little bit further to the south late next week. We're talking Thursday, Friday, and into next weekend by Saturday and Sunday. So that's kind of the overall weather pattern, what we're seeing over the next few days, just to get you a generalized look at what we can expect here. Now let's get a little bit more detail, a little bit more nerdy here. So let's look at the upper level jet stream on Monday. You can see we do have that classic northwest flow. We have the ridge across the west here. So up and over the top of that ridge, we have that upper level jet. This is the 200 millibar jet stream. So this is way, way up in the atmosphere. This is well thousands of feet above our heads here. And we're seeing that up across portions of Montana, even as far north as like southern Alberta, southern Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. We start to see more of an enhancement to the northwesterlies in the jet stream on Monday up here. And that will provide some lift for some thunderstorms further to the north. And then that dives down across the eastern United States, and you see that big dip here. It looks like a little dipper. If you look in the sky at nighttime, you see the little dipper. That's kind of what the jet stream looks like on Monday, and that will bring some cooler weather off the northwest flow as we go across the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, and the Northeast early next week. Now, things change once we get towards that Wednesday time frame, but let's first talk about Monday here. This is the surface-based CAPE trends, and if you guys don't know what CAPE is, it's convective available potential energy, and you can see that starting to billow up across the Great Plains. Now, don't take this and run with it and say, well, the instability says Minneapolis-St. Paul will have 3,000 joules per kilogram on Monday. All this is really trying to show you is just the general area of depiction of where the instability will be. Don't take these values and again and run with them. Just look at where the generalized area is for instability. That's what I do when I forecast the weather. This is not a perfect model, and it's one model, so things can change, but what I see and what I take from this is that the Great Plains gets lit up with CAPE as we go into Monday. So what that tells me is that, look at that, the Storm Prediction Center agrees. There's a slight risk of severe weather there from South Dakota down into portions of Nebraska, especially into eastern Colorado. Again, where have we seen that before? We have another slight risk there on Monday, and then down into west central Kansas, western Oklahoma, including the Oklahoma and Texas Panhandle, parts of northwest Texas there, and then getting into northeastern New Mexico, and then some marginally severe storms outside of that as well, into the northeast, across the Gulf Coast, and areas in between. So that's what we see going into early next week on Monday. And this will mainly be damaging wind and hail driven on Monday. I think there could be a few tornadoes. That's definitely a possibility, but I think this will mainly be damaging winds in excess of 60 miles per hour, quarter size hail or larger at times as well. That's going to be the main mode of severe weather on Monday across the Great Plains region. But there could be a couple tornadoes. We still have the upslope across portions there of the Front Range. We have to watch around the Denver region, Lamar, Colorado, famous area for some bigger hailers sometimes with the bigger storms, the tornadoes, stuff like that. We have to watch out for that as we go into Monday. And just some areas to highlight here on Monday in that slight risk. You got Sioux Falls up here into South Dakota. North Platte, Nebraska to the Hastings region, just outside of the Omaha area, at risk as well. Further to the south, we're talking about again Lamar, Colorado, Goodland down to Dodge City here, just west of Wichita in that slight risk zone, and then that could transition further south, especially into the western side of Oklahoma City, El Reno, Woodward, Oklahoma, getting down into Amarillo, and just north of Lubbock. Those areas, Wichita Falls, Childress, Texas, those will be the areas that we're watching for some a little bit more certainty for severe weather as we go into Monday. A little bit higher of a risk there. That's a level 2 out of 5 on the scale wherever you see the yellow. The dark green up here in the Green Bay, toward the Gaylord, Michigan region, back toward La Crosse, Wisconsin, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Aberdeen, Rapid City, Billings, Glasgow, all these areas, marginally severe storms are possible as we transition to that 1 out of 5. That's a marginal risk for storms. Up to 60-mile-per-hour winds, up to quarter-size hail, possibly a brief isolated tornado in these areas. But I promise you, the main mode in those areas as well will be marginally severe winds and hail. The tornado risk is even lower in the green than in the yellow on Monday. And looking at the coverage of storms on Monday and why it looks like it's kind of not really that big of a day of severe weather, well, the coverage of storms will not be that crazy. Everybody in that yellow shaded color or the green shaded color will not experience severe weather on Monday. We could be seeing some supercells develop, certainly from Nebraska down into the Texas Panhandle. A couple supercells could rotate, produce some tornadoes, damaging winds again in excess of 60 miles per hour, quarter size hail or larger is possible there, but not everybody will see a thunderstorm. Just remember that. The coverage Monday at best will be scattered. Certainly not talking about a widespread severe weather outbreak or anything like that on Monday, but just know supercells will be possible across the Great Plains, and a few tornadoes will also be possible there as well. Well, welcome, guys. The Ring of Fire is back. So we have the Ring of Fire pattern that is back as we start into Tuesday. Look at the jet stream coming off of the Eastern Pacific here, and this is absolutely crazy of how the jet stream is oriented on Tuesday. And I looked at this earlier on this week when the models were starting to trend this way, and I said, hey, this looks like a familiar pattern. And what I mean by that, I'll show you here in just a second. But on Tuesday, we see a ripping and roaring jet stream across the northwest United States, the Pacific Northwest in general, and then up across the upper Midwest here. We still have that upper low pressure system across portions of Hudson Bay up here and into portions of Canada. But you see instability starting to build and trend further north and east. So we still have the Great Plains in place on Tuesday for some severe weather. But this starts to transition eastward toward Iowa, Missouri, maybe western Illinois as we go into Tuesday with the Cape trends. Again, don't take these values verbatim, but just look at the area of coverage of what this instability values and energy for thunderstorms will be. And then as we go into Wednesday, the jet stream gets even stronger. So you start to see some reds and purples in here, and it's kind of flat over the top of that ridge. We got a ridge across the southwest. We got the upper low here up into portions of Canada, and you have that squeeze play going on, which means there's got to be some type of boundary up here. So you got to have a cold front attached to that low pressure system up here that'll be draped across the Midwest. That'll be dropping southeast, and it's all about the timing of the cold front. I cannot stress this enough. This is the most challenging part of forecasting severe weather this time of year is when does the cold front move across the upper Midwest? Does it move through Minneapolis, St. Paul Tuesday night? Or does it move farther south into northern Illinois, northern Missouri, southern Iowa on Tuesday night and pushes the severe weather threat and the storms further south across the Mid-South, across the Ohio Valley during that Wednesday timeframe? That is very challenging at this point as it's 4 to 5 days out, but I will tell you, the trends for Wednesday are a little concerning from looking at a forecaster's perspective. So looking here at surface-based Cape trends there on Wednesday, you start to see brighter colors. So again, don't take these values verbatim, but once this model starts trending brighter with the colors, you got to say, well, if you have a stronger jet stream that I just showed you, you have Cape that is just to the south of that, we have some problems as we go into next Wednesday. So that will be the day that could have the biggest threat for severe weather is on Wednesday. So mark it on the calendar if you live in the Midwest. That could be a day we have to watch, and it could get very busy with that weather pattern. Now I'm going to bring something up. You may or may not know what it is. This is a classic derecho pattern we're going to be getting into. Derechos love ring of fire patterns. They just love it. You have the heat to the south, and the high pressure system, by the way, is not going to be in the southeastern United States. Push this high back across portions of the desert southwest. But you get the point here. The airflow around the high is clockwise. So you see more progressive derechos over the warm season, spring, summer, early fall. That's where we see more of the progressive derechos. Those are usually the fastest moving, hence the word progressive, and also usually the stronger type of derechos as well, like the one that we saw in 2012 or the one we saw recently in Iowa of 2020 in August that produced 140 mile per hour wind gusts around the Cedar Rapids, Iowa region, or even the one more recent across portions of southern and central Illinois that moved through just about a week or two ago that produced widespread 100 mile per hour winds across western and central Illinois, flattening corn and producing lots of structure damage as well. So derechos are a big deal, and we're getting back into a pattern that is conducive or favorable for derechos and severe weather as we go in towards next week, particularly centered around Wednesday. And the derecho frequency by month, I wanted to bring this up to show you that usually we see the peak of that in May, so it's up to 22% frequency there into May. We dropped back to 20% in June last month, and then now we're in July. It's July the 8th today, and you see it jumps back up to 21%. So you still have favorability in the month of July for these derechos, and into particular these progressive derechos, and then it drops off into August. But you do note there is a greater than 0% favorability in any of the months. Even in December, we've had them. We've had serial derechos as well, which are usually associated with stronger low pressure systems and cold fronts. That's not what we're seeing in this time around, probably more the progressive type. But you do see from January to December, there is a 1% or greater frequency of derechos. It can happen any month of the year, but they're most common into the middle of summer. So May, June, and July timeframe. That is usually when we see our most frequent events of derechos as we go through the warm season. So let's look at my severe weather forecast for Tuesday. With what I've been seeing, this is the area I highlighted as at least a low probability for severe weather. Now, the Storm Prediction Center hasn't highlighted any areas. This is the area I highlighted just by looking at weather models and just kind of depicting between the ensembles, the operational models, the mesoscale coming in. I think Tuesday has at least a low probability of severe weather up across the Dakotas, particularly centered across South Dakota, and then dropping east-southeast through Iowa, southern Minnesota here, and getting maybe as far east as the Mississippi River into Iowa and Illinois and Wisconsin. This is the area to watch on Tuesday. Like I said, probably more of those MCSs, mesoscale convective systems, damaging winds, large hail. That is going to be the main driving force for some severe weather up here on Tuesday. Not to discount the tornado threat, but right now the confidence in that is very low. Right now, all I can say is that there's at least a low probability of severe weather anywhere you see highlighted there in towards that region. And again, just to drive this point home as well, not every single person I have highlighted in this region will see severe weather or even a thunderstorm. Okay, I know I've had people in my videos saying, well, you highlighted the entire state of Illinois or Iowa or Missouri. Well, yes, they're at risk for severe weather, but it doesn't mean that every single square mile of that region will see a thunderstorm or severe weather. This is how we forecast, especially in the long range. We highlight certain areas, we narrow it down as we get closer. That's what every meteorologist does. So that's what we're looking at here. Now into Wednesday, you start to see another color on there. That is a medium risk for severe weather, in my opinion, across portions of the Des Moines region and down there towards, say, the I-80 corridor into Illinois, and then further south and east toward Indiana, especially Indianapolis on southward there toward the Ohio River there, Louisville, Evansville, those areas. We will definitely have to be watching out for some more maybe impressive setups. The reason why I trended a little bit more bullish on the probability for severe weather on Wednesday is the fact that the jet stream is going to be a lot stronger on Wednesday. That's trending in all the models, even the ensembles. And the instability is going to be overlapping that shear. So you have high shear, high cape, you have lift with the cold front, and you have the moisture, but dew points in the 60s and 70s. You have everything checked off. Severe weather is likely to occur somewhere in at least this yellow shaded color, but more likely into the medium shade there into orange across portions of Omaha, Des Moines, Peoria, Bloomington, Normal, getting in towards Hannibal, Quincy, down here toward Evansville, and Indianapolis, maybe even the Louisville region as well. Lexington, Kentucky, maybe getting close there on Wednesday. And this is the day of more concern. This could be a day where we have an enhanced risk or higher probability for severe weather. Once the Storm Prediction Center gets more confident in that, they will put an outlook out. I am confident that they will. Within the next couple of days, especially with the trends in the weather models, we'll see what happens. But this could be a day where we could be seeing a derecho. So I want you to mark your calendar if you live in the Midwest or the Ohio Valley on Wednesday. And again, not everybody will see severe weather, and there may not be a derecho on Wednesday, but the pattern is favorable for a derecho sometime next week, but especially centered around Wednesday. And you can see that here on the EPS ensemble. This is the European ensemble rainfall accumulation during the middle of next week, trending across Iowa into northern Illinois. Now, this was the 0Z run from last night. The 12Z run is not out yet, and if it is, it's just coming out now. So we'll have to wait on that to see the trends in that. But right now, trending across Iowa, northern Illinois into Indiana, the middle of next week for that complex of severe weather. But the CMCE, the Canadian ensemble rainfall accumulation, shows that trending a little further south, maybe saying, hey, Northern Illinois might miss out on this again. And I know a lot of people in Northern Illinois are saying, well, we always miss out on the rain. Well, that's what happens. Sometimes these storm complexes grow so strong and they're so outflow dominant with the winds, they just kind of turn more southeast. Thunderstorms like food, and their food is CAPE, convective available potential energy. If there's no energy available for them, well, sure, they're going to turn southeast toward the food, toward the instability, the energy, because they need to eat to survive, and that's what could happen as we go into the middle of next week. So it's really dependent on the biggest thing here and the most challenging part, and before I even went into all these details, is the timing of the cold front. It really is all about the timing of the cold front. And it's a domino effect next week as well. So what happens on Monday will affect Tuesday's severe weather threat. What happens on Tuesday will affect Wednesday's severe weather threat, and so on. Wednesdays will affect Thursdays. That's just how it works this time of year. And that's that type of pattern we're in as we go into next week. So it's a domino effect day to day. Things will be fluid. Things will change. You may look up and say, why is there only a slight risk on Monday? It looks like a good day for tornadoes and the Great Plains. Then you wake up tomorrow and there's an enhanced risk, and you're like, wow, well, this really got upgraded from the Storm Prediction Center. That may happen, or vice versa. Monday could trend lower with probability for severe weather, and we go to Wednesday, and boom, you got a moderate risk for severe weather, and you got a derecho on your hands. That really could happen. You could have no highlighted areas like today. The Storm Prediction Center said in their day 4 to 8 outlook that they're not highlighting any areas because of the uncertainty in the placement and timing of the cold front and a lot of other factors. And I agree with that for the most part. I think that's a good way to go about things, because if you're not sure of where it will happen, why highlight an area? The only reason I did it is because I feel like that is, in my opinion, the area that will have the severe weather, in my opinion. They always have different opinions, and they're the expert. I'm not an expert. I'm just here looking at weather models and putting it out there for you, in my opinion. So, and you could have a different opinion from me as well. That's just how it works. But yes, that's what we're seeing as we go into the middle of next week. We'll see what happens. We really will. And even going into Thursday, if that happens on Wednesday further north, that will shift the convection, the thunderstorms further to the southeast. That'll really be centered across the Tennessee and the lower Ohio River Valley, really around Kentucky and Tennessee there. as we go into Thursday if that trends further northwest with that severity of the storms on Wednesday. So again, a domino effect, another low probability I highlighted there for Thursday. Things will be changing the next couple days. I'll have videos coming out for this next week as well, so we'll have to wait and see what happens. But absolutely something to watch out for. A derecho could be on our hands as we go in towards next week. So now is the point in the live stream. If you guys have any questions, weather related about this weekend, next week, anything I talked about, or vice versa, anything else, I will be answering any questions you do have. So make sure to ask in the live stream chat. And thank you to Gary for asking about the tropics. Yes, it can be about the tropics as well. It doesn't have to be about this weekend's weather, the severe weather I talked about. It could be about the tropics. The Eastern Pacific's very busy. We got Calvin and Dora on our hands. Tropical storm Calvin, I think, should be forming today. If it hasn't been named yet, it will be probably. And then we have Dora, which probably will turn into a hurricane in the Eastern Pacific Basin as we go in towards the next couple of days. That one could be the stronger of the two. And then in the tropics in the eastern side, over there in the North Atlantic, the Caribbean, and the Gulf, that is trending very much weaker right now. We're seeing a lot of dry air, a lot of wind shear, a lot of Saharan dust from the desert there in Africa. So the tropics and the Atlantic are on standby right now for anything. So that's what we're watching for. All right. Let's see. Sparky says, does it look like the monsoon season will happen in the desert Southwest this summer? That's a great question, and I have actually been looking at that. The other day, I was looking through the weather models, and the reason why there's nothing happening there in the desert Southwest for monsoon in Arizona, New Mexico, and so forth is because the ridge of high pressure, and I'll go back to the slide to show you what I'm talking about here. All right, so let's see. So you see how early next week you see these red anomalies down here? That's the center of the ridge of high pressure. And you have a lot of sinking air with that, lots of sunshine, not very many clouds. So obviously if you don't have any clouds, you're not going to get rainfall. But as we go into the middle of next week, you see how the center of high pressure kind of meanders further off to the west, kind of centered around southeastern portions there of Arizona into New Mexico. That'll mean that completely shuts off the monsoon from even happening there toward the middle of next week. So over the next week, I don't expect any rainfall with the monsoon season across those areas. I think it'll also be a later start time to the monsoon season across the desert Southwest, and overall a below normal monsoon season. So even though we're into El Nino, at least a weak El Nino phase of climate right now, I do think we're trending with a later start time to monsoon season, a shorter monsoon season overall, and also a weaker, more below normal monsoon season with less rainfall across the desert Southwest. So that's anybody that has monsoon. Southern California, Southern Nevada, Utah, Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico. I'm talking about all you guys down there. Monsoon season overall, later start time, shorter monsoon season duration, and also a less rainfall as well. So not a great monsoon season for anybody. That is what I've been seeing. Kathy, is Northern Illinois likely to stay in a drought for the remainder of the summer? That is an amazing question. And honestly, if this happens next week and Northern Illinois gets a big severe weather event and possibly a derecho, if that does occur, I know that could produce a lot of wind damage, but it also will be capable of producing some extremely heavy rainfall rates. We are in severe and extreme drought there developing in Northern Illinois. I know Rockford, Illinois is really starting to get into severe drought now. LaSalle, Peru, back to the Chicagoland area, a lot of widespread severe drought. If we see a convective system, an MCS, a mesoscale convective system, or what, that's nerd talk for just a storm complex moving across your region sometime next week, most likely Wednesday. If you get a couple of inches of rain from that, that will really help out the drought. Now, it won't get rid of it completely, but it will really help out. You'll probably be scaled back to a moderate drought instead of severe drought by then with a new drought outlook that comes out every Thursday. If that were to happen, that definitely would help out. But by the end of summer, I think it's very possible that you get back to normal conditions. I don't think you get to a surplus of rainfall in Northern Illinois because you're so far behind right now. but I do certainly think that the drought could become a lot better and improve across northern Illinois per the Climate Prediction Center's seasonal drought outlook does have that. I don't have that on the screen now. I wish I did to have that in my slideshow. So, because I knew somebody was probably going to talk about that. So, but yes, northern Illinois, I think the drought will improve throughout the summer. And it probably will take until August or early September to do so. It just takes a long time to get rid of a severe drought. That is for sure. But great question. Thank you. Great question. Let's see. Linda, my son will be in Ohio and Kentucky this coming week. How does the weather look? Well, in Ohio and Kentucky, the days to watch in that region will be on like middle to late week. So if we're talking about like Wednesday time frame, like Tuesday, all the severe weather should be back to the west here, mainly where I have highlighted, give or take, 50 miles or so where I have highlighted here. Wednesday's a day to watch for sure, anywhere across the Midwest or the Ohio Valley, and even on Thursday. I think Thursday could be a day where we could have the severity of the storms the strongest for the lower Ohio River Valley. Places like Kentucky and Ohio, and maybe some heavy rainfall. So Wednesday to Thursday time frame would be the days for bigger storms and thunderstorms coverage in general being more widespread across that region. So that would be the time to watch. Other than that, have a radar handy, but I think generally the weather should be pretty quiet for you there in Ohio and Kentucky by the end of next week. I'm in Ohio, Ashley Lee. Thank you for joining and modding. I appreciate it. I'm in Ohio. It's currently raining. Well, there you go. See, yeah, that's the thing is that Ohio has seen a lot of rainfall. They were in drought. There are some parts of the Ohio Valley in drought still, and where it's raining, like she said, they're probably not in drought very much because they're seeing a lot of rain. As in here, where I live in Illinois, we're just not seeing a lot of rain, so we have a more severe drought on our hands. So hopefully we can get out of that very soon. But thank you for sharing your weather report there, Ashley. I appreciate it. So it's raining in Ohio. There you go. I hope we can get some drought relief. Well, the temperatures are playing nice with us this week. 70s for the upper Midwest, but we're just not seeing a lot of rainfall until really the middle of next week. And that could also come with severe weather. So drought relief this time of year can come with just all rain, or it could come with severe weather. And unfortunately, could come with both as we go into next week. Saunders, do you think we will have an early winter? That's a great question, and unfortunately, I don't have the answer to that right now. I haven't really dug into the fall or winter analogs for El Nino or really any thought into that right now. So I can't really say for certain. I will have a fall forecast coming out late July or early August. It'll either be the last week in July or the first week in August. I do my seasonal weather outlooks for that. That will be coming out. So the entire fall season, you guys will know of what I predict for that as we get here in the next couple of weeks toward the end of July or early August. What direction does a derecho move? All derechos definitely move from west to east, but some move from north to south. I've seen some move from northwest to southeast, and I don't really know if any of derechos that I've ever seen move from south to north. But that would be an interesting statistic to look at. But most of them move northwest to southeast. Most of them. And those are usually the progressive derechos. You're welcome, Linda. Absolutely. James, do you think that a drier pattern will emerge for North Carolina towards the middle of next week? Let me go here back and look here. Let's look at our weather models together. So let's go here and check out what the GFS is showing real quick for that. That's a great question. So let's see here. So your question was, what was your question? Do you think a drier pattern will emerge for North Carolina next week? Right now, I'm seeing, yeah, absolutely. I think you may have some wetter conditions, I think, toward the end of next week, but a lot of the weather systems kind of just get caught up there in the Appalachians. The Appalachians really start to disrupt a lot of the frontal systems that come through, so they may not really make it truly to North Carolina, but if you do get it, Asheville, North Carolina, back to Raleigh, that will be the favorable area for any thunderstorm activity. Some could be severe, but definitely not as strong as what we see in the Midwest. But yeah, overall drier next week until probably late week, Friday, Saturday. That's when we could start to see some more rain into North Carolina. Great question. All right. What do you think of Friday about severe weather? It's pretty far out right now. I'm already having trouble even going to Thursday for severe weather outlooks. So there could be severe weather on Friday. This time of year, there's probably at least a marginal risk that will be out for severe weather. But just stay tuned. I'll have more videos on that early on this week, talking about Friday. Jeff says, are there going to be more plumes of smoke coming down here from the Canadian wildfires, and what weather changes can we expect from that? And that's another important aspect. I'm glad Jeff brought that up, is that the Canadian wildfire smoke actually has been disrupting our severe weather events at times, because usually for severe weather you need energy, and you get a lot of that from the sunshine, or what we call insolation, and you don't really see a lot of sunshine from when you have smoke in the skies, so you don't have a lot of energy. So it's really been disrupting our severe weather events recently. And what I mean by that is that a day that has forecasted instability levels 3,000 joules per kilogram has only 1,500 joules per kilogram, just half of that or so, because of the smoke just crowding the sky and not allowing for the sunshine to heat up the atmosphere and make it more unstable. So that is another key point for even next week's severe weather event. If we see more of that smoke move down from Canada, that could disrupt our weather pattern a little bit for next week as well. But right now, I don't see any significant smoke. Just because, due to the fact that the jet stream is so fast, it'll probably thin it out and not reach the surface as much. But also, I want to also note, because the jet stream is so strong, it could also pull down some smoke, but mainly in the upper elevations. So we're talking like 10,000 feet on up, probably not so much down to the surface. Kathy says the August 2020 derecho was insane. Yeah, that was a very strong derecho, probably one of the strongest derechos I have seen in modern history for sure. That has been 3 years now. Yeah, that's been a strong. That was a strong one. 140-mile-an-hour straight line winds without a tornado there. Just straight line winds out of a thunderstorm in the eastern Iowa there. I think it was near Cedar Rapids. Justin says, has been raining hard in Oklahoma City the past few days. Yeah, Oklahoma City is going to continue to see rounds of showers and storms, and some of them could produce heavy rain and severe weather. I know in Oklahoma City, as we go into your Sunday morning, it looks like we could have another complex of showers and storms pushing through with some stronger winds and some very heavy rain, according to the GFS model. Let's go to the HRRR down here into the southern plains. And yeah, look at that. This is the HRRR model from 12Z, so this is pretty recent. And you can start to see another complex of storms developing and just continuing to back build there through your Sunday morning and midday time frame around central Oklahoma. And if we look at our total precipitation accumulation, yeah, there could be some areas that get over 1.5 inches of rainfall there. So another 1 to 2 inches are on the way, with isolated 3-inch amounts. Oklahoma City, Lawton, down there towards the Texarkana region, Pine Bluff, Arkansas, Little Rock. Those will be the areas to watch out for heavy rain over the next 48 hours with another complex of storms. What's the main threats for severe weather next week, Jordan? Damaging winds and hail. The tornado risk still will be low. I think it's mainly going to be wind driven, so it's mainly going to be damaging winds and hail. But you can't discount a couple tornadoes. You're welcome, James. Absolutely. The wildfires have started earlier. Yeah, they have, and it's one of the worst wildfire seasons in Canada in quite a while, just due to the fact that it's just so dry up there, and you get, if somebody has a campfire and it gets out of control, or there's just different ways that fires start. Some are man-made fires, like campfires and grilling and stuff like that, that get out of hand, and then they start wildfires because it's so dry, or it just starts up by itself by lightning. It could be just Mother Nature starting the fires sometimes. That can happen. That has happened. So just hopefully we get a lot of those fires under control up there. Absolutely, Ghost Dragons. Yeah, absolutely. Logan says, what state could a derecho form next week? Right now, I'll go back to my slideshow here to show you. Right now, on Wednesday is the day we're looking at for the potential for a derecho. It would be centered around Wednesday. Not to say Tuesday or Thursday couldn't have one, or any other day next week, but right now, Wednesday looks like the most impressive day for the ingredients. We have a strong jet stream. We have very strong energy levels with instability, and we have lots of moisture, and that overlaps well, especially into that orange highlighted area. This could wobble north or south or shrink in the coming days with new information and data that comes in. So we'll be updating that on my weather videos every single morning that I put out. I should have a new video out tomorrow morning for you. No video today, unfortunately, because I'm doing a live stream, but I will have one out for tomorrow for sure, probably. But yeah, right now, I would say areas from Iowa, eastern Nebraska, and then east southeast there into portions of central and southern Illinois, northern Missouri, Indiana, especially central and southern Indiana, and into northwest Kentucky. That is the prime area right now with the information and data that I have for a derecho potential for Wednesday, if one did occur. And a derecho very much may not happen next week. It just depends. The favorability there is there for sure. Confused. Everybody's saying colder July, but triple digits. There are other YouTubers out there saying this is an Arctic summer, and I absolutely disagree strongly with that. And reason because people just want to get views for some reason on there to grab your attention, and I, for one, will not ever do that for you guys. My titles are a little much sometimes, but I have to get views for my videos. But I also do those titles that are meaningful. So, like today, a big problem next week. Well, this is an issue because if we have a derecho next week, that could cause a lot of problems. So, therefore, my title backs up my live stream. So, that's what we're seeing. I will never put Arctic summer. That I think that is ridiculous. I don't think that's ever going to happen. Um, but yeah, I don't know why people do that. I really don't. I really don't. Yeah, there's no Arctic summer. And if you think it, and people are saying, well, Arctic air is like 70s and you're in the hundreds. Well, not really. You're only cooling off 20 degrees, and 70s is definitely not Arctic air. It's cooler air. It's not Arctic though. Arctic air to me is like 0 degrees Fahrenheit. That's Arctic air. You're not going to see any of that really across North America in portions of summer. It's not happening. So, um, do you think the Atlantic Ocean will get Cat 5 hurricanes this season? Man, I can't predict whether or not they'll they'll even get a hurricane. Honestly, we're in El Nino phase of climate. I think it's possible there's hurricanes into the Atlantic. There could be a brief window of some favorability for hurricanes to develop in the Atlantic, like I said, late July into August, and then again probably late August into September. But other than that, the Atlantic's really just quiet. But I can't predict that. But it is very warm. The water temperatures are warm in the Gulf, the Caribbean, and the North Atlantic right now. Jordan, so the question I have is the storm next week on Wednesday is more of a yes, it's yes. We've been over this several times. Yeah, it could be a derecho. Absolutely. Absolutely. Not a certainty yet, but there's the environment and the weather pattern next week would favor the potential for a progressive derecho. Absolutely. Summer has had cooler start, but there's no absolutely, yeah, no Arctic air. Nope. Jordan Smith, you're always accurate. You called the derecho months ago in Illinois, and it happened like a couple weeks ago in Illinois, and it may happen. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not, I'm not a weather wizard by any means. I take the data and information as I see it, and I produce a forecast from it. And this is the forecast I have. You will always get the utmost accurate weather forecast on YouTube on my channel. And that's why I like when everybody subscribes to my channel, because I know I'm giving you guys the best forecast I possibly can give you guys on YouTube as I can, with taking the data, the information I have, and putting it together for you guys, presenting it on my videos, presenting it on my live streams. This is the only way I can do it. And also on Twitter. If you follow me on Twitter, I have more information on there as well. And the Twitter handle should be down below the description of the live stream. If you guys have not followed me there, click on that and follow me on Twitter. How did derechos form? Several different ways. There's two different main types of derechos, a serial derecho and a progressive derecho. A serial derecho usually occurs in the cold season, so like winter, early spring, late fall, that time frame. That's usually associated with a stronger low pressure system or a cold frontal boundary, and that is mainly forced induced. What I mean by forcing induced is that you have to have a lot of lift for a serial derecho and a lot of rising air all at once. And it produces one thunderstorm, then one thunderstorm produces two, then two produces three. It's just a chain effect for derechos, and this even includes the progressive ones. Sometimes it can form off of just one thunderstorm, and you have a big enough outflow winds and cold pool aloft that it just presents itself with more thunderstorms, and all of a sudden you have a complex of storms, and then they're racing to the east or racing southeast because of the orientation of the jet stream, also the instability gradient. A lot of derechos that develop on the northern and northeastern periphery of a heat wave. You have a large reservoir of instability to the south, like we have next week. You got a strong jet stream over the top, and then you have enough lift and moisture, and there you go. You got the corn sweat up here at times. Probably not so as much this year as we've had because of drought, but there still is some evapotranspiration going on with the corn crops and stuff like that up here that we could still have, low to mid 70 dew points that could favor derechos. And that's kind of how they form. They basically form sometimes off of a thunderstorm, then chain reaction. Absolutely, all about the data. Could Southeast Michigan get severe weather next week? Yes, it is very possible. Absolutely. Kimberly says, is Southern Illinois going to get anything bad? Right now, I have Southern Illinois in a medium probability for severe weather next week. The very southern tip of Illinois is in that low probability right now, but this could wobble north or south or shrink, like I said, as certainty becomes a little better in the coming days with this. A lot more clarity on the weather pattern and whatnot. But yes, Southern Illinois is at risk for potentially a complex of storms that could produce some very strong winds, hail, and tornadoes. Probably centered around that Wednesday time frame. Absolutely. I want to know when Indiana is getting snow. Not anytime soon, so you'll have to wait several more months for that to occur. Like around Anna, Illinois. Yeah, Anna, Illinois, you're probably at risk for potentially a derecho next week. Hurricane force winds, hail, and tornadoes, depending on how the atmosphere evolves with the environment next week. Certainly, thunderstorms will be likely, but severe weather is possible right now. Just a medium probability for that right now. So, like a 50-50 odds. Flip of a coin right now. Ice cream. Hey, weather on the go. Did the SPC or the Storm Prediction Center, as that's what the SPC means, update their stuff? I woke up earlier and it shows tomorrow Florence, Alabama was in a slight. Now they moved it. Yes, they update in. So the day 2 outlook for tomorrow. They always update that at 12:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time. So that's why they shifted it further to the east. So they won't update that outlook for day 2 until 1 a.m. in the morning Central Time, which will be tomorrow morning at 1 a.m. So that could change as well again. It could move back toward your area. Do you think the smoke from northwest Canada will reach down to the state of Kansas? No, it's not. The jet stream is too far north for that, no. Could the upper Midwest see some 90s? Probably not. the ridge of high pressure is too strong down to the south. It's not going to build that far north. And it hasn't this year. That's why we haven't had a lot of severe weather events in the upper Midwest, because the northern periphery of that ridge of high pressure, the heat wave, has been lit up with thunderstorms in the Great Plains, but it hasn't, usually we see, like in La Nina type of climates, we see more of the ridges building further north into Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, almost to Canada sometimes. The northern periphery, a lot of these ridges of high pressure this year have only been up to like maybe southern Nebraska, really, southern Wyoming. They haven't really, and then kind of rounding its way toward Kansas City. We haven't seen the ridge of high pressure build up there toward like Minneapolis, St. Paul, Rapid City, Bismarck, Fargo, those areas this year. And I don't think that really will happen, to be quite honest with you, at least this month. Yeah, it's been pretty close, not quite there. Yeah, I don't think it quite gets there though. I think we're still going to see that same pattern with a lot of severe weather in the Great Plains and Missouri Valley over the next several weeks to come. Well, thank you guys. If you guys have no more questions, that is what we're seeing for the weather pattern over the next several days. I appreciate everybody joining. We went over for an hour now, so thank you guys so much for joining me. I really do appreciate all the support. If you guys want to show more support to me, like the live stream down below on your way out. If you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're new. I appreciate all the old subscribers, all the new subscribers as well. Thank you guys so much for showing all your support by just watching my videos each and every day, joining the live streams, asking questions, stuff like that. I do appreciate that. Anybody that has a question, you certainly can ask them on my videos. I answer everybody's questions for the most part on my videos each and every morning, and you guys can see that as well. My videos recently have been coming out late morning, early afternoon. That will continue for the next several weeks as I'm busy earlier on in the morning. So just be watching out for my videos between 10 a.m. Central Time and 2 p.m. Central Time. So centered around noon time, that's probably when my videos will be coming out, at least for the next several weeks. Melissa Smith, thanks, Weather on the Go. Absolutely. Thank you for being here and showing support. I appreciate each and every one of you, especially. So thank you. Thank you for the stream. Have a wonderful one, sir. And folks, thank you so much. Ghost Dragons, thank you. Tim Key, time to get back to work. Absolutely. Beautiful outside today. Probably got to do some yard work and stuff. And I have to get back to looking at the weather pattern. A lot of new data, a lot of new information coming in, and I have to adapt myself to those updates. So I'll be looking at that and fine tuning my forecast as we move forward. I likely will have a video tomorrow out for you guys. So be sure to join me as we go into tomorrow. Thank you for doing the live stream. Have a wonderful day, Saunders. Thank you so much. Also, thank you for the donation. I really do appreciate that. Thank you also to Ghost Dragons for the $5 donation. Love your channel. Keep up the great work. I don't want to forget about you. Thank you, Ghost Dragons, for the donation as well. I appreciate it. Absolutely. Thank you for the support, guys. Autumn says, I missed it, but I'll watch the video. Thank you so much. You can, if you missed today's live stream, Autumn, you can replay it after I end the live stream, and you can go back through and it explains everything I mentioned. Or you could, watch my video tomorrow. Whatever works for you. So, all right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me. We've been going for over an hour now. I appreciate that. If you guys have any other questions, don't hesitate to reach out on Twitter or even on YouTube on my videos in the comment section down below, my videos or live streams, and ask any more questions. All right. Well, have a great rest of your weekend. Have a safe rest of your weekend, everybody. Enjoy the weather out there. Beautiful across the Midwest. Lots of sunshine, lots of cool weather for the time being. And if you're under the heat in the desert Southwest, hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. Stay cool if you work outside. Again, it's very important to hydrate and stay cool in the shade or an air-conditioned room, building, anything like that. Definitely helpful as you work outside. All right. Absolutely. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and follow me on Twitter. All right. Have a good rest of your afternoon, everybody, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video. Goodbye, everybody.